We're in Bradford to meet Sophia, who works on the Muslim Women in Prisons project, where she helps them before they're released kind of integrate back into community, just loads of all these issues basically that we're going to learn about. Because I always thought I like to talk about women's issues, but then when I came across Sophia, I was like, oh, I never actually even once considered Muslim women in prison, the kind of different needs that they'd have and the experiences they'd have because they're Muslim and from community backgrounds.
It's just a bit different from some of the other girls, right?
Well, completely different. I mean, if you're going to talk about the obvious thing, she doesn't wear hijab. She's doing work that is really needed and really overlooked.
Yeah, it should be an interesting
So,
one.
yeah, she'll be really interesting, Giles, yeah.
Cool, right, let's go.
Yeah, it's raining. Should we go in?
Yeah.
Oh, here's me thinking I could just barge in.
How are you?
Good, alhamdulillah, how are you?
Nice to meet you. The Khidmat Centre is a care centre. It offers services for people of all ages really. So we have elderly people accessing this. We have a learning disability group on site, young people, and this is where I work with some of the offenders for my project, Muslim Women in Prison. I'm a community development worker. I've worked with communities for over 10 years, and I'm most known for doing the first research into Muslim women in prison, just looking at the reasons why Muslim women go to prison, some of the challenges they face when they're there, and post-release as well. I went on to set up a rehabilitation programme for Muslim women in several prisons in the UK, and I think a lot of what I do is determined by my Islamic values.
In the report, it said just briefly some of the offenders might be covering up for a male.
The only link that we saw in these offenders, so the first thing everyone asks is, what have they done?
Yeah.
And across the board, the only connection we saw was there was links to wider family crimes. I mean, there's this thing about, if a woman sometimes takes the blame, it's less time, or it's a first-time offender, and it's very unfortunate because that contradicts everything faith tells us. I've always done gender equality work, so for a long time I remember setting up a youth club. Some of the people in that community really thought that, at the end of a high school education, we'd really like for our daughters to maybe get married and settle down and have children. And some of that was to do with, I guess, their backgrounds and their mindset that they brought over from South Asia. But I thought it was really important to engage young women in recreation and talk freely about their ideas, about life, and look at their own aspirations and what they were, and to encourage that type of free thinking. And the other thing that came up was the fact that some of these women, like all women in prison, have suffered very difficult issues in the background, so issues that we as a community are maybe not too comfortable speaking about, like domestic abuse, sexual abuse. There's issues of forced marriage, mental health. Essentially, Muslim women are a minority within a minority.
Yeah. In my experience, whenever I try to talk to communities about those issues, nobody wants to know about it because I don't know, maybe it's just being scared.
If a woman is a victim of domestic violence or some sort of sexual abuse, how openly can she go to a place in her community or environment and say, look, I need to disclose this and I need help?
Yeah.
How open are we as a community to that? Because that could eventually prevent a lot of other things happening.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when you look at the journey of women in the criminal justice system, you find that there's a lot of hardship and a lot of baggage behind them.
Yeah.
Is there a chocolate finger missing?
There is, I ate it. Sorry, I didn't want my stomach to rumble. Can you get us another chocolate finger and pop it in there?
No, it's fine.
Well, what are your views on modesty, hijab? There's a lot of outer piety in communities, and just talk to me a little bit about that.
I think with hijab, first and foremost, Islamically we're told hijab is hijab of the heart, and that reflects in your values, your modesties, your interaction with people. But sometimes I find in communities that it's the other way around, and it's more of an emphasis on outer hijab.
Yeah.
And it seems to be that if you are covering up to a certain extent, you just you're probably the greatest Muslim of all, and you're the symbol of perfection. You can't make any mistakes, and you know, you're the pinnacle of what we must aspire for. But for me, it's more about your motivation. It's more about your connectivity to people, your interactions. So unfortunately, I think in this day and age, there is more of an emphasis on outer piety.
What advice would you give to those young girls who might feel that pressure, but they have so many things that they actually want to do?
Stay committed, stay focused, be true to your morals, be true to your position, and don't be afraid. It takes a certain type of boldness to actually challenge that, and even if that means really sensitive conversations with your parents and trying to give your perspective and background, I'd always say that there's always other women out there that are doing amazing things.
It's been really, really interesting talking to you. Oh, and lovely, of course. Thanks for having me.
It's lovely to have you in Bradford, actually.
Assalamu alaikum, love.
So, what do you think of Sophia?
She is like the only person who's actually addressing this. Before I even heard of her, I didn't even think Muslim women in prison. I'm really inspired to kind of like be a bit more active. You know what I mean? Because I have a lot of views in favour of women, but am I really doing anything? I need to like meet people and branch out and learn about things. I need to learn about things. I don't know, Giles.
Go and see the world, man.
I literally don't know anything.
Let's go find the world. Let's
Like
go
you
there.
guys were really name dropping and I was like, who's that? Oh, it turns out he's a bloody MP. What the I don't even know who this MP is.
Dina, how's it going?
Not bad.
Cool. Pretty hectic few days of shooting, right?
Yeah, but we've had a break now, haven't we, Giles?
Yeah, we have had a bit of a break. Have you enjoyed it though?
Yeah, I have really enjoyed it. It's been great.
The conversation between you and your family was pretty interesting. There seemed like there was a bit of a divide between the girls and the boys in the room. Is that quite a common thing?
Yeah, if you can call it a conversation, it's more like a bloody argument. Like in terms of our family, whenever we have these debates or these conversations, we're always arguing or in disagreement with each other, especially when there's boys involved.
I'm very back and forth sometimes. I'm like, well, just you can wear what you want. If you want to take your scarf off, that's your choice.
So you can wear what you want.
Well, no, because you say, oh, I'm doing
Why is he giving you that?
No, that's not.
Allowance.
No.
I've decided you can wear what you want.
Like,
Lucky Tuesday!
no, I'm trying to say it's the same thing.
What do you think interests you most about each of them?
They all found more support in those communities rather than at home with their Muslim community. That was like the theme. I really liked Delia because she was in a really, really obviously male-dominated environment, and she was walking around like she owns the place, and it was just so good to see that. Like when I first walked in there, I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to go in there," and then Delia just took me under her wing, and I was like, "Yes, I feel like I should be here." You know? Like, they see you guys are always comfortable because there's billions of you walking around here. That's why you're always like, yeah, I can go in there, I can do that, yeah, whatever. Because they all look like you. Do you get me? But like when you look a bit different or you do things a bit differently, it's quite scary. It can be scary. I loved Emmy because before I even saw what she was doing and that, she was just so like warm and inviting. She's very open-minded.
Yeah.
And she said herself she got that from the dance world. Like the dance world taught her how to be open-minded and accepting of others. Yeah, not the Muslim community, which is what it should be doing. What I really loved about Sophia was that I just really loved the work she's doing, man. I found it fascinating. And it just highlighted how much Muslim women are needed in these industries as well.
So what, if anything else, in terms of advice, do you want to add? We've had a lot.
I would read yourself, question everything. It's not wrong to question anything in the religion. You're allowed to ask questions. Anything you see in the Quran you don't feel is right, you question it.
I'd just say, maybe if you feel intimidated, take a friend.
Be yourself. Don't live for somebody else.
Stay committed, stay focused, be true to your morals, be true to your position, asking for support, asking for encouragement. And you know, not many women that have been down that path themselves will close the door on you. Yeah. They're always ready to give advice.
If I was talking to young Hannah, I would say, listen girl, don't take shit from anyone. That's what I would say.
you as emotional about this as we are, about this coming to an end?
If anything, I feel like the two people behind the camera have learnt so much, guys. So if nobody else gets this whole series, you know what? We've changed the perspectives of two white men. And that is amazing in itself.